welcome back to Truck Tech, everyone. This week we actually are bringing you more or less breaking news. It was announced earlier today, but Daimler Truck has stepped out now with a new application, at least on a demonstration basis, for autonomous vehicles. And that is by combining a level 4 full autonomous truck, fully capable of driving on its own truck, with an electric powertrain, and really taking two things that they have and putting them together. I don't know whether you call that chocolate and peanut butter or not, but we're going to talk with Joanna Butler, who is the Daimler Truck Global Autonomous Technology Group lead. Joanna and I have been together on the show before for regular watchers. Joanna, welcome back.
Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to see you again. It was good to be with you earlier today as well. What you've done now with taking autonomy and electrification and merging them, at least as you said, in a demonstration way, is you're answering a question that a number of people have asked. And that is, well, how can it be possible that we're going to have autonomous trucks on the road running on diesel when diesel is continuing to get pushed further to the side? Why don't we start there and just talk about if this is, in addition to being a demonstration, sending a message perhaps to regulators that you know what's coming?
So, Alan, as Daimler Truck, we definitely have the goal and the mission to lead sustainable transportation. And we have asked ourselves that question, of course. So far, the two use cases of electric and autonomous driving have been explored in parallel. Electric is already in a series production state, whereas autonomous vehicles are still in the development phase and will be ready to be deployed soon. We have announced 2027 as our goal date to enter the US market with autonomous trucks. So for us, we always said we will combine it when the time is right. And we really felt that now, as our electric vehicle portfolio has matured, we have a number of different truck models already in the market. We have our series eCascadia in production for over 2 years now, and our autonomous level 4 chassis has also matured so far. So now is a good time to really bring these two technologies together to explore how we can fulfill the needs, let's say, of society, and the challenge that regulators have given us to drive towards zero emissions, and do that also in a way that we improve the freight efficiency through autonomous driving. So the combination of the two technologies helps us to learn how to further mature this technology, to learn about new use cases, and be ready when both technologies are ready.
Taking, Joanna, a second generation eCascadia, which you are, which is a day cab, right? I mean, it's mostly at this point with 230 miles of range. Basically, it's a regional haul truck, and that sort of thing. And demonstrating autonomy in that particular application, certainly makes me ask the question. There's one company out there right now that's doing kind of that middle mile work, which is Gatic. And of course, you don't have to address a company specifically. But it is interesting that with having now the EM2 medium duty class 6 truck in production and being delivered to customers, it seems like this could be some new market opportunity. Am I over jumping there?
So we definitely use this demonstrator also to explore new use cases, new business cases, and business opportunities. So we're starting right now with this Class 8, let's say, regional tractor application with the eCascadia. But definitely we are looking now at the use case of shorter medium haul routes. We looked at it, and about 60 billion miles annually are driven in those configurations, like in short, medium haul. And so we absolutely see a market potential beyond that long haul configuration. And our goal is with this demonstrator also to prove that we will have, basically a portfolio to offer our customers a choice of vehicle application, starting with sleeper, diesel, long haul, now looking into medium haul, electric applications in a day cab configuration, and yes, potentially at some point also looking into more pickup distribution, shorter haul applications with our EM2. I think the key message is that we have the right ingredients in our portfolio to make it happen when the time is right. But for now, we'll focus the demonstrator on the eCascadia.
Well, if I'm sitting in Mountain View, California today and I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, uh-oh, here they come. Because there's something about the 800-pound gorilla, always not always a nice description, but you guys are the market leader. You brought in Rizon, in the class 4-5 space. You've got the EM2. You've obviously got 6 million miles of experience with the eCascadia. So, you're gaining all of this experience in one place. If I'm a competitor, I'm a little concerned that you are now paying attention to me, and I wish you wouldn't. But I'll leave that for someone else to say, I guess, since I already said it. Joanna, the actual configuration, using a day cap. It's interesting because one of the startups, Kodiak Robotics, a year ago at the Hacked Expo in Anaheim, actually took a Peterbilt 579 and they put their drive system on, or at least they said they did. Can't say they did or didn't, but they showed the truck. They didn't really have much to say about it. I don't believe it ever got on the road that I've heard of. So that was kind of the first time I saw anybody really look into doing this. Now you've come with it, and of course, you're showing it in actual operations. So this is, it's not just something for PR. Although I imagine there'll be some coming from it today. The thought here being that you did an interesting packaging job putting that Torc compute system right between two seats. You want to tell us about how that happened?
Yeah, so when we started on this journey, the biggest challenge was how are we going to be able to package all the hardware into a day cab configuration? Why? Because we need to protect, so to speak, the two seats. Yeah, we will continue to have a safety driver for testing operations and a safety engineer to conduct safe tests in this application. So somehow we needed to find that space. And our team has been really creative in utilizing that middle console for the packet to package the compute and also package components of it and parts of it under the passenger seat. In addition, we developed kind of our own in-house air cooling to ensure that, also the ambient temperature, the compute is cooled and then the ambient temperature for drivers and safety engineers is adequate in this application.
Including Torc, and I've been in most of the long haul autonomous trucks that you and competitors have. Of course, that compute unit is back there where the observer seats are and things like that. Now we're really getting into pretty tight packaging. I'm glad you mentioned that it had to extend under the passenger seat to get everything in, but that's still a pretty big feat to get all of that technology really into a day cab. I mean, that's really something. And I don't know. I mean, at this point, as a demonstrator, tell me a little bit about the plans. Who are you going to demonstrate for, and over?
Yeah, so I think in the first step, it is for us internally, to really learn how we can start combining this technology. For example, explore any potential impact of compute power and power needs, on the range, for example. Same way, how do we package and include all the sensor suite now on this kind of mid-roof day cab vehicle? So we've been really successful in accomplishing that. And in the next step, we really want to also showcase the opportunities and the potential of this configuration to our customers. Where you asked earlier, are you now really targeting this kind of middle mile, short and medium haul segment? I think it's a great opportunity to expand beyond one use case and start working, with segments like beverage, food deliveries, grocers in a, let's say, DC, so distribution center to distribution center type of application. I was mentioning as well that we could envision this as almost a conveyor belt, where you have continuous flow of goods from one point to the other point. And it's going to be very critical that here we also have a convergence and synergies in the infrastructure. So when you ask about the demonstrator, certainly learning from a technical perspective, how can we be ready and really prepare for a propulsion agnostic platform in the future and scale, beyond one configuration, Cascadia Sleeper, but also absolutely learn together with our customers and maybe other customer segments how we can make autonomy available to them and at the same time help them fulfill their decarbonization goals. And we as a company, as Daimler, we have the goal to decarbonize our product portfolio by 2039. And so we want to also contribute to that with an autonomous configuration. So I guess we want to prove it to ourselves, but for sure also our main stakeholders, which are our customers and the fleets of this nation.
Sure. So if I'm Kroger, for example, which is of course based in Cincinnati, but operating in Dallas right now with the aforementioned competitors' autonomous vehicles, you might be hearing from us at Daimler or something like that at some point to say, hey, you want to see what we got for you? So interesting for sure. I want to ask you about 2027 because it's still the date that you're using. You hosted a number of us in New Mexico at Torc last fall, and we saw that you had already brought the redundant chassis in. It was there and getting ready to be worked on. I guess I'm wondering, is that date still what you're looking at, or is it possible to pull forward now? You've got two competitors that say they'll go in 2024. I don't think the being first is necessarily best, but it's certainly being first. So do you think 2027 holds, or will you be ready sooner?
I think 2027 absolutely holds. There's a couple of factors why this is a good date. Like you mentioned, the maturity of the redundant chassis, the level 4 ready platform at this point. I think we communicated that we are at C sample maturity, which means one step before series production on that base vehicle platform. At the same time, we're working very closely with Torc and the Torc team on the integration of their specific and specified autonomous driving hardware. So that's all the sensors and the compute. And we are maturing that hardware together towards really series production maturity. So there is definitely a couple more steps to get to the point where we can build those vehicles at large scale and move from the testing phase to a series production phase. And we want to make sure we do that responsibly and move at the right speed, so to speak, through the proper development steps. But we are making continuous progress along the way. And so we feel really good about
Using
27.
using 2027 then as sort of the target, is that for full commercialization? In other words, you're not going to be doing, well, let's say 20 trucks. You're going to be ready to go. The idea is to launch commercially just like you would any vehicle that Daimler makes in 2027. You'll be ready, presumably at line side, to install the Torc system, in your plants and things like that. That you won't have to go through that sort of, let's try it first, because you're going to be ready to go. Is that what I'm understanding?
So the great thing is that we're already learning what it takes to integrate this vehicle into our plans. We actually started building at least the base platform at our series production plans. So we're already starting to improve the processes and be ready for scaling. The next step will be also integrating all the hardware that comes with the autonomy into our plant processes. So 2027 is our goal to be ready to deliver trucks with a factory installed system from Torc. And then we have a phased market approach. I think we shared that also with you last year, where we go through different steps to be ready for full scaling.
Well, for right now, you've got a couple of your major customers that are hauling freight. I think it's Phoenix to Oklahoma City. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right now, and you're looking at Laredo to Dallas as kind of your launch route, I believe. Am I also correct on that? Okay. So at this point, what are you hearing? And we did hear from them a few months back, but what are you hearing from the CR Englands and I think it's Snyder is your other partner at this point? What are you hearing in terms of uptime and things like that? What kind of feedback are you receiving?
Yeah, I think the Torc team is doing a great job here working with one of the largest fleets in really learning about how to integrate autonomous trucks into their operations. And so far, we've been successfully delivering freight on time, with zero incidents. And what we're hearing is that, they see the promise, they see the potential of this technology. They absolutely will underline the fact that this will help them to increase their asset utilization, that predictability of freight movement, of ETAs is going to be critical. And also we heard from their customers, the shippers that are working with them, and how they are looking forward to this technology, because it will help them ultimately to plan their logistics better and ensure that the freight demand will be answered in a continuous manner. So really, these trucks would be able to operate almost 24/7, with like planned downtime. And that is really, really exciting for them, as well as the promise of higher road safety.
Well, and of course, you can redeploy the drivers because you won't need them. You redeploy them, presumably to the last mile work and things like that we've talked about in the past. I noticed something new though today with your you have a name for it, but it's basically the bar on the top of the truck.
The upper
New?
sensor bar.
Yeah. What would you call it? Sorry.
Upper sensor bar.
Upper sensor bar. It's a new design. We haven't seen that one from you yet. Is this sort of production intent for 27, or do you think it'll
This is
be?
our first iteration of how we can envision how to package the sensor suite, and protect it with a custom designed bar. We will probably see a couple of iterations towards 2027 of this design.
I did notice this one has rounding to it though, so you're obviously trying where you can to pick up aerodynamic efficiency
Absolutely.
with it. A lot of the earlier iterations were very sharp. They had sharp edges to them, truthfully, and they had chicken buckets and things like that, or rotating lidars and so forth. That goes away as we move forward, and we've seen some pretty elegant designs from some of your competitors in terms of integration as well. I guess I want to ask you a few more things about electrification. Just in Europe a week or two ago, you went ahead and did your first test with a Siemens system on megawatt charging, and I realize that's not directly in your space. However, as we talk about marrying autonomy and charging, are we looking now at the long haul trucking? When you can take that kind of load on, you're going to go a lot farther before you have to do anything in terms of charging, right?
Yeah, so we're definitely going to look at where are the optimal, let's say, charging slash autonomous terminal locations, so to how can I get the most out of the range that I am being provided with, an electric vehicle, versus, how do I have the optimal operational processes and remove any inefficiencies. So ideally, our customers would be able to do all the autonomous launching and receiving operations at the same location where they're charging those vehicles. So while the vehicle is charging, we can actually use that time that the vehicle is anyway dwelling to do the sensor inspections, the pre-trip preparations, and then send the vehicle when it's charged and at 80% or full, send it back on its mission. So we're really looking at it at how can we remove any dwell time that doesn't provide any value. So
Right. Well, one way to remove dwell time is to use MCS charging, and because you're just going to be able to go farther on a single charge and carry a lot more energy. I'm fascinated because just earlier this week, in Bakersfield, California, we saw that Watt EV, unveiled a site for charging that has 3 MCS chargers. You have one in Portland at Electric Island. So they're coming, and I realize it's not next week and not next year even, but we are getting to this point. And when we look at the Actros, the eActros 600, which we did get a chance to see last fall, and that vehicle may or may not, you're not going to tell me this, may or may not be the basis of the next eCascadia, but it has, MCS charging capability as well as, regular direct charging. And so I guess as I look out and I look at the picture, I think I'm seeing something here. I don't know what I'm seeing, right?
I love your vision, Alan. This is always great. And what you might be seeing is that we are we are working actively to build this scalable agnostic platform. So agnostic in terms of propulsion technology. We used what we could grab, so to speak, today off our shelf. And as that technology and that offering expands to other, either enhanced battery electric components or maybe at some point hydrogen, we will be able to also utilize this technology. We're learning now what it means to be agnostic from a motion control perspective, how we package all these additional, high-tech components in different configurations, even though they all look a little bit different. But the learnings that we gain today, how we approach it, we can absolutely apply this to other markets, and other propulsion technologies. And also, we're looking at staying, driver agnostic as well. So I think that was the other topic you
Let's
alluded to.
talk for just a minute. We only have a couple minutes left here. Let's talk for just a minute about hydrogen, because I realize you didn't make any announcements about that today, but you definitely are looking at H2 ICE or internal combustion. The greatest difference, of course, would be where do those tanks go? That are going to hold the hydrogen. But it does feel like something that, as you use the term agnostic, I think of one of your partners, Cummins, which is doing exactly that across its engine portfolio now, with starting with natural gas, and then I think diesel, and then ultimately H2 ICE. Is kind of their progression out to the late part of the decade. That seems to be kind of what you're talking about as well.
Yeah, so as I said, looking at what it takes to ultimately work with any type of power generation, how we are setting up the configuration in any type of propulsion setting is really the goal here. And just as you mentioned at the very beginning, is this the tweener in between? This is one step, and since we have access to this technology, locally but also globally, we will definitely look into further, opportunities to drive towards zero emissions in multiple propulsion configurations.
Sure. Well, that's a great place for us to end today. Joanna, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you, especially in the day when you made the announcement. And so we're kind of current today. We're not just looking into something that, could be any time. This is actually, I guess we used to call it breaking news, but it's news. And we really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Alan.
Okay. Well, folks, this really was kind of newsy today, and it was great to hear from Joanna. Great to get an understanding of what they're thinking about, both in terms of markets, technologies, and just how this rolls out and what the learnings have to be along the way. So we'll see what else the market leader, if you will, has in mind over time. But it is great to be able to catch up again with Joanna. We thank her and Daimler Truck for making Joanna available today. For the rest of you, we'll point you out to Friday's Truck Tech newsletter, 11 a.m. Eastern, for email and also for the website. But thanks very much for being here.